welcome to Practical Spirituality here at Asia Torah in the old city of Jerusalem overlooking the Temple Mount. And please jump on board and join the what's the name of my club?
Yom Tov Media.
Yom Tov Media Club. I just, for those just tuning in, I just got back from mountain biking, so my brain's been in the hot sun for a little while. YomTovMediaClub.com. Join YomTovMediaClub.com, and also please share this no matter what you're watching this on. If it's Facebook, share it. If it's Torah Anytime, subscribe, and YouTube, please subscribe. Building up our subscribers. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is how to get yourself opened up, how to stop being someone who's closed up and rather be someone who's opened up. And it could be some of you in this room are just looking at me like why would me being opened up be a good thing? And why is a rabbi talking about that? And especially a lot of people look at Judaism as like something that's more on the restrictive side. And so opened up isn't like the first thing that you would maybe think I was coming here to talk about. But I believe actually that if you don't open up, you're going to pay for it. God's going to make you pay for it. Why? Because you see, all you have to do is look at the way Judaism looks at the classes of mineral, plant, animal, human, and that is that a mineral is called domem in Hebrew, and plant is called someach, and animal is called chai, like life, and humans are called midaber. Midaber, and what's midaber mean? To speak. We're actually, our class in Judaism is called speakers. And speakers are expressors, and expression's really, really important. I'm from the West Coast where expression is the way of life out there. I mean, you just express whatever it is that's going on with you, which really works with everybody. So like, for example, you can be from LA where narcissism is not considered a personality disorder. And it works because if your narcissism steps too much on other people's toes, they'll actually say something. The problem is when a West Coaster marries an East Coaster, and they're just waiting for their East Coast spouse to say something. And the East Coast spouse just can't figure out why this person's so inconsiderate. And the West Coast person's not being inconsiderate, because in the West Coast, you just keep pushing until you get pushed back. Yeah, you push until someone pushes you back. When they push you back, you're just like, thank you for letting me know the edge, because otherwise you'd never know the edge. And that's just the way they think. Now, the question is, which one's right? Which one's right? Which one does God favor? Does he favor the East Coast version, or does he favor the West Coast version? And the answer is both, obviously. We're supposed to be of good character and concerned of other people's well-being. On the other hand, any amount you were not self-expressed, you're busted. Yeah, as the cops in the Bronx say, you've been busted. Yeah. You've been busted. And that's how I grew up with cops used to tell us we've been busted. So anyway, if you're not expressing yourself, you've been busted. And that's a freaky thing. That it doesn't scare me so much because if anything, I'm overly self-expressed and it hits a lot of walls, and I get constantly told when I've overdone it, which is most of the time. So I'm always in good shape as far as self-expression, pretty good shape. I mean, it could be, I'm telling you, part of this media club, the reason we have the media club is just because I'm scared to death that my self-expression in a technological age like this is not enough. It's not enough, meaning it reaches whoever I reach, but it's not reaching however, because it's every 4 months, there's a different world called being optimized. And so it scares me, such that I've decided finally to just hire people to do it, because I don't believe just hitting record on this thing's optimization. I think it requires a higher level of proficiency that's worth paying for. And so, but I really believe we all could be busted. Now, I've done this a million times, I'll just do it again for those of you who are new, hey, what's this? Is a little Venn diagram up there, and on our left we have what is they're not exactly to scale, it's the way things are. On the left is being Jewish, and on the right is being Jewish, and they're mutually exclusive, meaning there are just certain things that every Jew is obligated to do, regardless of their thoughts or feelings or preferences. You know, it doesn't matter what you think when it's evening time and it's time to pray, and the sun is setting. Meaning if it's the first prayers of the day, which today I think were 1:15 was the first time you could do the afternoon service, and the last time you can do the afternoon service today is 7:40. That's quite a lot of hours there. So if you're not feeling it, you can skip it and do it at 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. But if it's 6:39 and you're still not feeling it, what do you do? What do you do? If it's 6:39, you're still not feeling it. What do you do?
Be Jewish.
You do it anyway. Just get the job done. And people confuse this a lot. People feel like it's a good day for tefillin. There's no such thing as a good day for. If it's day, it's tefillin time. Yeah. If it's daytime, it's tefillin time. If you already put it on that day, fabulous. If not, get it on. But you understand, it's not like there's good days for tefillin. Now, you may have better sessions in your tefillin than others, depending where you're at. But they are mutually exclusive. And and you get a lot of people with black hatitude who are raised, very observant, who Jewish got knocked out during the war. See, there's a psychological thing called disassociation. Disassociation is a psychological thing that takes place when during torture or what's called micro torture, and that's when your dentist comes at your gums with a needle. Okay, we all disassociate for a moment there. We all just kind of take off for a split second. She's like, it's just gonna be a little prick, and you're gone when she says that, and then it's in, you feel it, and then the needle's in your gums. And then you realize, relax, it's in. And then she's, of course, filling it with whatever she puts in there. All I know is it ends with the syllable cane. And I don't believe the first part is Coke. And then your gums are all, your mouth's all numb, but you're reassociated, which isn't great, by the way, to be having someone using power tools in your mouth in full association. But whatever, we reassociate. Paramedics disassociate. I promise you, everyone in El Paso yesterday was totally disassociated in that emergency that took place over there. That's a disassociation that would probably require therapy for anyone who was present at the time. In reassociating, they're probably, many of them, especially the younger they are going to reassociate with things that need working out in their system. And also we ourselves going through some of our rougher days will sometimes need to reassociate. I have my own meditative reassociations I do with myself when I've overdone it, when I've pushed myself too far. And now my wife's like, can we spend a little time together? And I'm just like, can I use a chainsaw? And I'm just not feeling like candlelight right now. And so I'll do my little reassociation, little miracle meditation, and then I'm back. Light up the candle, put on the soft music, glass of wine. I'm good. But that's disassociation. Now, people who have suffered real torture can become disassociated permanently. There are 3 types of Holocaust survivors when it comes to this. The 3 types are physical survivors. Those are the types that I grew up with in California, meaning they survived physically, but they dumped Europe. Like, Europe is gone, goodbye Europe, and also goodbye all Jewish tradition that was in Europe, and meaning besides lighting Hanukkah candles, obviously, and hearing shofar and Rosh Hashanah and Passover Seders. Thank God we did all that stuff, but you understand, Europe, we're just closing the door on Europe, including all the Judaism, all the everything. These are the physical survivors, but you notice that people are like not 100% there. They're very loving, our grandparents, and probably your great-grandparents. Yeah, and you got to have uncles or aunts or grandparents like this? Father, okay, you know what I'm talking about. He's a wonderful man. I'm sure he loves you like crazy, but he's... What?
No longer with us.
No longer with us. Oh, he was, but you also notice that they're about half there. You know, they're not like you and your buddies growing up. You know, they're a little different, and you can understand why they're a little different. The next is the physical and spiritual survivors. These are survivors of the Holocaust that survived not only with their bodies, but they also, by the way, these work generally together, but not always. They can be exclusive. But then there are spiritual survivors. They survived with their bodies. They got the numbers on their arms, but there's a pair of teffilin going on. You know, the teffilin strap's going over the numbers. You know, they also, you know, the truth is they don't even hate Europe, because the Judaism that existed in Europe before the destruction was still, you know, just like 15 index points above the Judaism that we all were raised with. Meaning there were still people walking around who would just look at your face and tell you who you were, like every incarnation. You know, like, and there were a few of them in every town. Like, the Judaism was just, our tribal experience as a nation was just higher spiritually before that. Now, however, something interesting is no, I wouldn't even say that. Forget that point I almost said. It just wasn't dated right. It was 150 years before that. But there was a Judaism in Europe before the war that was like if any of you are doubting whether there's a God or whether Torah is actually true, there were people. I even met some of these people that could walk in this door. All your hair would stand up because you're looking this way. You wouldn't be looking at the door. Everyone's hair in this room would stand up. You'd then look with shock towards the door. What the hell just happened? You'd look towards the door, and all of you would fall on your faces. You'd fall out of your chairs onto your faces in the presence of some man or woman from that generation before the war. I mean, all of us know the horrors of, I mean, we don't know the horrors, but we've heard some of the, you know, some taste of the horrors of the Holocaust. But there's another aspect of it you don't know about, and that's what all the Rebbes call the destruction of Europe. They don't call it the Holocaust so much. They'll often call it the destruction of Europe. And then you'll think about it like any of you have been on a Eurail pass. Like, what do you mean the destruction of Europe? Like, I've traveled through 17 European countries. I didn't see anything destroyed there. You know, what are they talking about? What they're talking about is the spirituality that was destroyed. We inherited a soulless Judaism in this generation. It was a soulless Judaism that we inherited. And if you can remind me of the final nail in the coffin, okay, in a minute. Anyway, so there are those who had both physical and spiritual survival, and those are the ones who built places like Brooklyn, like Williamsburg, Borough Park, Flatbush, which ultimately became Muncie and Lakewood, where they said we're going to show those Nazi bastards, and we're going to rebuild Judaism. And they rebuilt Judaism, and they did it viciously, because number 3 they didn't have, and number 3 is the I. Is the sense of self, and I mean, can you imagine a Judaism without an I? That sounds rough, you know. Like if it's just a ruthless, like we're gonna show those Nazi bastards, and we're gonna rebuild, and boy did they rebuild. And I mean, if you've ever had a Shabbos in Flatbush or Borough Park or any of these in Williamsburg, I mean, you see what I'm talking about. I mean, I was just in Williamsburg for Shabbos. It was the most beautiful Shabbos ever. But while I was in Shabbos, there was a full-on protest parade going through the streets for people carrying, using the Eruv that there is an Eruv there. And it was like there was a major protest for people using the Eruv. Now, How would you feel if you're a mother who uses the Eruv and pushes a stroller to have half your city screaming epitaphs going down your street about the whatever, the sin of pushing your stroller using the Eruv that exists there. And you shouldn't be using the Eruv, according to these people. But you understand, there's a bit of a ruthless. It would have been a lot nicer to maybe figure out which neighbors of which buildings are pushing strollers and maybe have a private conversation with them, rather than cause the humiliation of everybody who would like to actually go to their mother's house for Shabbos with their child. Like, how about I bring my baby to my mother's house? Like, is that such a big deal? As long as there's an Eruv, you should be able to do that. So anyway, but it is a bit of a ruthless thing, and that's having the eye intact, where you have both the physical survival, the spiritual survival, and very few people. Can someone mention anyone they've heard of that also had the third type of survival? There's a woman I'm thinking of who's famous for having a really amazing sense of self. She passed away this last year.
Youngrice?
Yeah, Esther Youngrice. She was, there are very few people who got to have all three. But Esther Youngrice was one of those examples. There were some Rebbes, like the Bubba Rebbe also. His eye was still very, very strong. In fact, his very first Shabbos, when he came off a boat, I think, to New York after the war, and he was emaciated. He was like, he was in deep need of rehabilitation from the war. But he was strong enough, to make the voyage, and he got to America, and he meaning he'd already been in the camp, the post-war, what do you call those? What? DP camps, and he'd already gotten his strength back a bit. So what had happened was there were Jewish kids in a camp in the country, in the Catskills, or there was already starting his dynasty in Borough Park, Brooklyn, and they asked him, where are you going to be for Shabbos? He says, I'll be with the kids. Let me go be with the kids for Shabbos. And as he arrived from the war, from the camps, the kids were all lined up, hundreds of kids lined up at the camp. We're singing Bubba Vernigan as he drove up and got out of the car and saw that Bubba will survive, and as it does survive and thrive around the world. Now, anyway, but those are examples of people who had both the physical, spiritual, and the eye. But there are even people who never had a Holocaust, but they had a personal Holocaust, and those are victims of, and that's been very popular lately, is the whole Me Too generation, is that unwanted touch has the same dissociative properties, unwanted touch, and what's been going on the last 2 years is just a major awareness campaign. It's been politicized, and it's become, people often, roll their eyes at it, but we should, for its essence, one should never roll their eyes at it, and it should never become politicized because of it's called affect, the cellular trauma inside the body of someone who was touched without their consent, and that would include, obviously, even with consent, if it's a child who doesn't know better, and that is a dissociative thing can take place, and reassociation is not a simple matter whatsoever, and it's the greatest therapy for reassociation is likely going to turn out to be a psychedelic therapy of some sort. They seem to find that either the psilocybin mushroom or the compound found in MDMA seems to be the best way to kind of recircuit one's self again. It kind of defrags the body and the mind and allows someone to kind of recuperate their sense of self and kind of get them back to their original factory settings before the disassociation took place. And there's plenty of science there to read up on now. You can just Google that. That's simple Googling, or you can read Michael Pollan's work, How to Change Your Mind, which is gives some level of detail of that. And it's a great read. You can read the whole book in a day just because he's such a good writer. I mean, this is a book that should have taken anyone 6 weeks to read because it's so scientific, but it's just, you just can't put it down. It's really a fabulous book. It's called How to Change Your Mind.